What's up, everybody? Welcome to this episode of Campus Cuts. Today, I got a special, very special guest. I have a leader. I have somebody that's a mentor, a counselor, somebody that has moved within the field of academia and higher education, somebody that is for the students, somebody that loves her job and loves being able to making sure that she's representing the people and the students well. She is an amazing person. And I am blessed and honored to be able to have Miss Dr. Palacios in the house. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. What a wonderful, I don't think I've had such an introduction.
Well, I know. I mean, absolutely, it is so true. Like, man, Dr. Palacios, you are that. Like, you are that and more. And honestly, I'm super excited that you took the time out to join the show. For everybody that's tuning in, welcome to Campus Cuts. And what Campus Cuts is, it's an intergenerational, multicultural show that brings together students, faculty, staff, entertainers, athletes, and entrepreneurs and artists from all walks of life to chop it up in the barbershop. So right now we're in our little virtual barbershop over over the internet. But I'm super glad that you're here. So before we go really dive in, Dr. Palacios, I just want you to give a little introduction about yourself. What is your name? What is your current occupation? And then after that, we'll move on from there.
Sure. So I don't use Dr. Liz Palacios, but in times like this when we do need role models, especially Latinas, I'm very proud so I'm going to say Dr. Liz Palacios. I'm the Dean for Student Development here at Baylor University. I have been here for over 38 years. So I pretty much have grown up here and grown into, I guess, Baylor. But yes, love what I do. I get to meet and work with amazing students like you. And it's just one of those things that keeps on giving. And I think
Right.
it's an excellent occupation.
Yeah, that's amazing. And 38 years is a long time. Shoot, that's almost as old as my
Yeah. Oh, oh,
dad.
ouch.
I mean,
Well,
dude.
I started at 5, right? Oh well.
Yeah. Wow. That there's so much and I'm super excited to really dive into this episode with you because the amount of knowledge and wisdom and humility that you have, that you walk throughout your leadership. And primarily, most of my audience is mostly anywhere from 18 to 22, but I've had sprinkles of, people that are up to like 30 plus, 45, even people that 65 to 70 that
Oh
have tuned
my.
in. So it's just, and I mean,
That's excellent.
it's amazing. So, but I cannot wait for the people to be able to soak up what you have to bring. So, you know, usually with different interviews and podcasts, I've watched a lot of them. They're kind of the same thing. But what I really wanted to bring to Campus Cuts is the feeling of the barbershop, because growing up, the barbershop has been a staple for the Black community, especially for
Yes.
Black men. But I wanted to continue to expand that for everybody to feel comfortable and have that honest, fun conversation
Mhm.
that is enlightening and that is educating. So my first question for you is, who are you? Not what you do, because
Yeah,
there's a
yeah.
bunch of people that say, like, I do this, I do that, but who
Yep.
are you? Who's Dr. Liz Palacios?
Wow. I would say if I were just to describe who I am and no one knows me, I'm a I would say passionate and compassionate
Mm,
Latina woman um, who loves the Lord, right? Uh, my dad was a minister, so when I came to Baylor and started working, he kept saying, Liz, I thought you were going to be a missionary. But my heart said, you know what, I am. Because I'm at Baylor. It's a predominantly white institution and it's a Christian institution.
mm,
So, and I say that because I really found out who I was. See, you're right. A lot of times we think we are what we do,
mm,
our titles and our positions, but I found out, God has a purpose, and usually it's not the one you thought of. It's not the one you said, "Oh, I'm going to be this," and
right.
God's chuckling and saying, "No, you're this." So I found that I'm pretty persistent. My kids call me a nice bossy. I I uh, I really believe there's something that has to be done. I'm going to make sure that I persist. I found out that I'm resilient, and
Mhm,
that a lot of times, especially people of color, when you're in a predominantly white climate, you have to really be able to love. You have to be able to love others, right? And you have to
Right.
be able to love yourself first. And so when challenges come along, I found out that I'm really stronger than I thought. I guess I would say that first,
Wow.
because challenges just make you not only persist but to succeed. And that's one thing I think God has shown me a lot. I had all my plans laid out. I thought this is what I was going to do. Told the Lord exactly, okay, I'm going to go to Baylor. I'm going to go for 4 years. I'm going to travel the world, and you know, get rich and famous. So I said I would not get married till I was in my 30s. Well, I married my sweet college sweetheart my senior year, and then I came to Baylor to work for 1 year so I could get my
Mhm.
husband out of school. That 1 year turned into 38,
Wow.
and that's when I started discovering, Lord, you have first of all a sense of humor. None of the things I told you I was going to do really happened, but in a way, He showed me something much greater,
Right.
and I could not even imagine doing what I'm doing. And so, and becoming the person I am, I guess I'm surprised because I've always been such a I love harmony, but what I've
Mhm.
learned now that harmony only comes through work, hard work, right?
Mm.
It doesn't Peace doesn't come by just wishing it. It comes through challenges. And you don't know what peace is until you've come out of the other side of a storm.
Yeah.
And so God has shown me a lot. So I am a very much a family person, and so I love gosh, my family, now my grandchildren. It seems so I feel so old when I say that, but they are so they just make you just blossom. Um, so yeah, I found out that I've got a lot of things that I didn't know I was capable of, and I was
Right.
very, very grateful for that. So now I kind of think of I'm a seasoned, all right. I now I'm accepting I'm a seasoned professional, but I'm also in the time of my life that uh, unapologetically I do what I believe is right,
Wow.
and I don't worry so much as, well, will this hurt my chances of promotion? Will this hurt my chances of da 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 da? It's not about me. It's really, now I see very clearly how I want to leave a legacy, and I want to leave it as a person who I am, and I love,
Mm.
again, those things that I love. The third thing I found out was because of my childhood and because of my growing up as first gen and in poverty, um, amazing parents, like I said,
Right.
and they always talked to me about school. And so with that, I don't take no for an answer when people say, well, maybe I'm not supposed to be at Baylor, or maybe I'm not supposed to be in higher ed. Maybe I
Right.
don't need to be doing this, or I can't do this, or other people don't think I can. And I've lived that life. And it's like, no, 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 we can walk this together. We can fix these things. And we're going to learn, right, how to overcome these challenges. So because you're going to be better than
Mm.
you came in. So those are the three things I think of the woman that I've become and the love I have. And I love to celebrate. I love to decorate, as you can see probably in the back of my
Yes, ma'am.
office. And I just love my students as well because they teach me more than I teach them.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. That is amazing. And there's so much, man, this is so good. This is going to be a great conversation. There's so much to unpack there. And like from, from your professional life, from your way
Mhm.
that you grew up, and from your legacy. Like, see, the question that I usually ask at the end of the podcast is, pardon me, talk show. It's not a podcast, it's a talk show.
Talk
Because,
show.
we're like it's a business. You saw the little
Yeah,
intro. Well, not the
love
little
it.
intro,
I
it was
love
an
it.
intro.
You are still blowing me away. I mean,
Shout out to my friends. First, I just want to say shout out to my friends Israel, Carlos Marashia, and then Manny Ozawalu. Manny helped with the graphic that's behind.
they're
Carlos
amazing.
makes beats, and I was like, hey man, I would love to use your beat. And then Ezreal, one of my great friends, he does videography and film. So shout out to them. But
Yes.
man, there's so much just to unpack there, and I really want to first dive into. So you said you were first generation American, and first generation college student.
Mhm.
And you went to Baylor like at a time when it was completely different. And this is so good
Yes.
because future Baylor alum. Shout out class of 2021.
That's right. That's
Yeah,
right.
man, that's so crazy. Um, well, whenever you like talk about like growing up in the idea of resilience, I just think whenever you were saying that, I
Hmm.
was just thinking about the word grit, the book Grits with
Yes.
Angela Duckworth. Right.
Yes.
Um, so when you were growing up during that period of time, um, what was the DNA? What was the DNA makeup of you being able, like, how did you get into Baylor first?
Ooh.
And how was that for you being able to transition like from your very first, like from high school, from all the stuff that you had to deal with into,
Hmm.
like, your environment and being able to not necessarily simulate, but to be able to feel like you belong.
It's a great story. Because I went to a high school in San Antonio
Hmm.
that was predominantly Mexican American. Our SES was pretty poor. In fact, not till I came to Baylor and had my first sociology class, and I'm reading my text, and it names my high school, and it says it's the second poorest district in the whole state of Texas. Well, I didn't know that. I
Oh,
didn't know we were poor. Um, so 98%, which means leaves only 2% right of other. Um, and so now I'm a junior. I'm in student council. I just won student council president position. I'm just on top of the world. Going into my guidance counselor, and I said, "Okay, I'm ready. I'm going to be going into my senior year. I'm going to be taking these classes." And she looked at me and she said, "Well, now, Liz, I've already got your advising slip, and so these are the courses you're going to take." And I started looking at them, and one of them is cosmetology, and then another one is something else, and nothing college prep. Well, my parents didn't know how to tell me that I should have been taking classes freshman year.
right.
Um, but I said, no, I'm going to college. That's my parents' dream, my dream. And she sat and she looked at me pensively and she said, now look, I'm giving you cosmetology so you don't have to be a burden on society. You don't have to be on welfare.
Whoa, 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 whoa,
And,
whoa.
this is something that I think this will be good for you. And I'm thinking, you don't know me. And apparently she's been giving this to all of us, Mexican Americans.
Right.
And so I looked at her and I said, no, I want to go to college. And she said, "Now, Liz, have you even thought about what college?" I said, "No, no, not yet." And I'm a junior. And she said, "Well, look, just take this advisor slip and just, if you go to college, that's nice. Just go to a junior college if you so, but really, you need to have something to back you up." Well, I looked around her office, and it was all decorated in Baylor. Uh, Material, all Baylor posters and Baylor this and Baylor that. I'd not heard of Baylor. Being a preacher's daughter, you would think. Uh, but I never heard of Baylor. And so I looked at her, feeling very mischievous.
Yeah.
And I said, I'm going to Baylor. And she looked and she laughed and she said, Liz, even if you get in, you would never fit in. And
Oh,
that
wow.
really struck my
Wow.
heart. And it's like, wow. So I left. I didn't take the advising slip. I went back to my student council advisor and told him what happened, that she won't give me any college courses that I would need to get in, and told him what happened. He says, Liz, I'm so sorry. That happens too often. Well, I was able to get him to come back and change my advising slip with her. But that really struck me because number one, she decided who I was. She decided I
Mm,
was going to already be a burden to society because of I guess my background, my culture. And she had already decided that she was going to help me. She never asked me, but she was going to help me. And so I thought, but I got into Baylor. I let her know I got into Baylor, but I always joke because I said, not only did I get into Baylor, I have been here, like I said, for this long, and I'm a dean, and I've been a professor, and I've been
yeah.
different things. I've kind of made my way around Baylor. Um, and so, people ask me, did you ever go back and tell her? And I said, I never did. But I tell my classmates from my high school, and it's one of those things where it was unfortunate because people assume because you're poor or a person of color, you're not going to be able to do much.
Mm,
And I found something about myself, I guess, is that when people kept telling me, "You will never do dot dot dot," that seems to kind of fire me up.
yeah.
Um, So I landed at Baylor and I got here, and it was a culture shock because San Antonio, oh, everybody looked like me. My high
Right.
school, everybody looked like me, and I got here, and everybody's like, "What cotton field do you work in?" Or,
Whoa.
"What's it like being a migrant?" Or, "You speak really good English." It's like, I speak well, I do know that. But I was confronted with stereotypes I'd never really heard about or thought about. And it's like, well, where do and again, when they talked about, I really had to learn about humor. And when they talked about, so where do you pick your cotton? I said, well, at HEB in aisle 49, I mean, it's like, that's my cotton balls. Um, and I make light of it only because people were truly curious about me and didn't know
Yeah.
how to take me. We were 1% minority back then. We're
Right.
38% now. I could walk all day and only see people, whether it's gardening or in the cafeteria, that look like me.
Right.
Um,
Absolutely.
so yeah, it was lonely, and I went home to San Antonio every weekend my freshman year, which is what we tell our freshmen not to do,
What's
right?
not to
Don't do
do.
it. And I did, but the second semester, I really prayed about it, and I was able to start getting involved. And that's why, it's not when we first met as freshmen, and you said, "Hey, I want to get involved." I thought, "This is so great. This is so good," because it's usually the second semester, our students are coming around, and that's what has really fueled me because I had to navigate this, and I had professors and staff speak into me, into my life, and I had one administrator said, "Liz, I understand you feel lonely, but just try to pass." And I thought, pass is what? I'm not sure.
Yeah.
And that's where
Yeah.
people really wanted me to start assimilating. And when I teach a class in race and ethnicity, I talk about the difference of, you can assimilate, you lose who you are. You
Right.
lose your background, your culture, your traditions. When you acculturate, you take your culture and you take your traditions, and you also take in the mainstream. So you
Mhm.
have the best of both worlds. You don't
Mhm.
give up. It's an additive thing. So I tell my students, don't change. Don't change to fit into a place. You change the place to
Mhm.
make it fit you.
Right.
And I think that's been one of my things that I just tell. And the other thing I tell students, I mean, do not let other people define who you are, because that's where this all started. So
Right. Right. That's my
I'm
little
gonna grab
cousin right
my
over there.
I'm gonna grab my drink behind me.
Yeah, of course. Absolutely. Wow.
Okay.
Wow.
Thank you.
That is so powerful. That man, like to even think about it, that people like no matter what position, man, I'm just thinking that you had somebody speak life into you that
Mm,
that you trusted as an advisor, like that somebody and I think that's so hard. That's one of the hard things about being a person of color, especially within the education system, where
mm,
you are genuinely are trying to do your best, but because of people due to people's ignorance or
mhm.
their lack of knowledge, or because of just the perceptions and the misconceptions that are placed
Yeah.
due to stereotyping, that can hold a lot of weight to a person. I'm so blessed and I'm so happy that that pushed you, because in similar situations I face, like, okay, this is a fire, like a chip on my shoulder, but then again, like after a time that chip gets a little bit heavy. That chip
Yeah,
does get a little bit heavy.
it
So,
does.
like, my question for you is, like, how are you able to transform that fuel, rather than like a chip on your shoulder, to something that's like, you know what, I'm going to let it be, and but I'm going to continue to fly regardless of that.
Yes. And I think you said the operative word, because you said, "I'm gonna fly," right?
Hmm.
And you can't fly when you have a heavy burden. You can't fly when you're weighted down. And I found that when you hold everything, and of course my doctorate's in psychology too, so I love that. I get to really see the world. Um, but when you have things heavy on you, it really keeps you from flying. It keeps you from
Hmm.
growing, and it almost festers inside you. And so that as you start seeing the world, that festering comes up, and it really taints the way you see the world. And so it's not so much as just um, like the song, just kind of brush it off, or just, it's really about
Shake it
getting
off
it
with
back.
Taylor Swift.
Shake it off. There you go. I tell you, my grandkids are going to be so embarrassed. Yeah, it's like, no, no, you don't even remember that song. But you know what's so cool is that as Christians, we can give it up, and we don't have to shake it off. We can give it to the Lord. And
Mhm,
what I found in just in my lifetime is that that transforms into um, it transforms into again, it goes back to transforming into an energy that makes you fuels you, I guess,
mhm.
to continue doing what you're supposed to be doing. When it, you know, life is going to happen to us, things are going to happen to us.
Yeah.
It's how we respond that dictates who we are. It really is. It's so like so how we respond is a reflection of who we are, and
Mm,
even the hard times. So it's when I find I'm tired of doing this work, I'm tired sometimes and just saying, gosh, I've been doing this for so long and have things changed? I have these conversations in my head.
mhm,
And then I think, well, has it even made a difference? But then
mm.
I think about all of us have a sphere of influence. You have a sphere of influence. This is yours,
Absolutely.
right?
Yes.
So my sphere of influence would be wherever I would speak or wherever I would just even one on one with a student. And so I started thinking, okay, I'm not going to change the world, but I'm going to change, hopefully be part of a change of a person who's going to change another person who's going to change another person, right?
Mhm.
And so that, but the weight of it is real. You know, it's real, and you get tired, and you think, gosh, will things ever get better?
Right.
And then you pop up with a student like you and think, oh my gosh, this is so cool to see this freshman now. What are you, a senior?
Senior, yeah.
Yeah, yesterday you were a freshman, right?
I know it went by so fast. People used to say like, okay, like college goes fast or college days swiftly fast. Shout out to FIA, but
Yeah,
no,
I've seen you
it
grow.
does.
That's that is a joy of all of us who have spoken into your life. You have so many people around you.
Right.
And that's the same with me. Even now, I surround myself with strong women. I surround
Yes.
myself with strong Christians. I surround myself with people who are positive and who are going to lift me up when I lift them up when they're down. It's because we're human. We're just going to lift each other up.
Right.
Um, I lean on my husband a lot. He is the total opposite of me, which I love. He is so logical and so like, have you thought just of this and this? And it's like, yeah, why am I getting all blown up for this? Um, so I think going back, the work that we do when we talk about work of equity or diversity or the
Yes.
sense of belonging, it doesn't belong to any one person or one office or one
Right.
position. And so if we can get past that, it's everybody's work, regardless of what you look like,
Yeah.
uh, then things will change.
That's so good. And there's 2 points that I just want to even add on to that is
Yeah.
one, I loved how the fact that I was listening to this guy, he's an angel philosopher,
Hmm.
angel investor, current age philosopher, entrepreneur. His name is Naval Ravikant. And Naval was saying that most people have this huge ideation that they want to change the world.
Mm.
But then, and it's so funny, but it's like, you just gotta find your niche because everybody wants to do everything. Shoot, I want to do everything. I mean,
Yeah.
but this is my platform. This is like my springboard to
Hmm.
do all that I imagine I want to do or whatever God wants me to do. But I loved how you said that everybody has a sphere of influence.
Hmm.
Like, especially in this day and age where shoot, this is a live broadcast. Or shoot, we have an influence on our phone. And that
Hmm.
like in our life, more people have to realize that they have more influence than they think they have. On
Yes.
average, the average person meets will influence 70,000 people in their lifetime.
Wow.
70,000. And then, so now imagine that if you're a person that's in academia, imagine if you're a person in entertainment, imagine if you're a person in
Hmm.
publishing, marketing, engineering, like the amount of people that you're going to be around because through your whole life, because
That's
like
phenomenal.
the only constant is change. So you're going to change different environments and different stuff, but people are going to be moved by it.
Mm.
Move. And
Hmm.
that's just a crazy thought. Like I remember I was even thinking when starting this, I'm like, ah, man, is anybody gonna listen? Like, like, honestly, I was like, why would anybody listen to a 20, well, at the time when I first started, it was 2 days
Mhm.
before my 21st birthday, a 20-year old. Why would people want to listen? Why would people want to tune in? I don't know anything, but I'm like, all right.
Mm.
I know, you read all these leadership books. Shout out to my mom with Tony Robbins and Think and Grow
Yep.
Rich, and then, like, the leadership manual is by Stephen Covey and all that.
Mhm.
It's like leadership is not an external title. It's something that's within. And so now my
Right.
question for you is like, what was like your development in the leadership journey, especially as you were walking throughout your time in higher education, because you are a doctor, you got a PhD. So talk about that leadership development and why it's important for us to understand that we're all leaders.
We are leaders. I always begin that we first have to be leaders of ourselves. We
Right.
have to be disciplined. We have to be able to be aware of who we are. I loved your question, who are you? Not your title, but who are you? And I think a lot of times, as I even talk to students, leadership and my journey as well, it had to begin with me and it had to begin with what kind of leader am I? How do I lead myself and how do I make sure that I'm leading with integrity and with virtues and with not just theories, but really practice?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then I think with leadership, it talks a lot about the different types of leadership styles. And I had to decide, okay, um, my training, again, as a professor, I was for about 15 years teaching students, school psychologists. And so I
Mm-hmm.
was teaching them counseling. I was teaching them how to really listen and to be empathic and to be, just to really empathetic and to be compassionate. These were skills, right? As a counselor or therapist or school psychologist. When I came into administration, my leadership had to change. Well, I didn't know that. So here I am having my first directors meeting, and I'm almost and my our good friend Pearl Beverly was saying, "Liz, this is not a group, you know." So I'm here, and so she's giving me a hard time because I'm listening to all the directors, and I'm hearing and I said, "Okay, well, how are you doing? How are you feeling?" And da 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 da. And so it was very much more the way I was teaching, right?
Right.
And then I had to change my leadership style because now I'm a dean responsible for directors and their departments and for their board of administration. And so I found my leadership style had to say not what do you think and how do you feel, but hey, we're talking about a team and building a team, and now we're going to
Mm,
progress. We are not. It's not about us touchy feely. I always take care of my staff, but now it's about how do I empower you? How do I give you the skills and the resources for you to be successful, for your students to be successful? So I had to
mm,
change my leadership approach from leading in more counseling to leading as an administrator, and that was funny because my role was different, and I had to pull different leadership styles, pull leadership skills out and have tough conversations. So if I had to talk to a staff member who is not doing well or
right.
producing, then what do you need from me so that we can both be successful? And if
Right.
you choose not to, well, then that's a choice, right? So these are hard conversations that I had to learn to have. I had to learn how to have difficult conversations and difficult dialogues. And so these are times where I find a lot of my colleagues, it's very difficult for them to have these hard conversations, but I found I'm pretty good at that. I can have a
Yeah.
difficult conversation without demeaning or having someone feel really down. I mean, I've even letting go people. I've done it in a
Right.
way with dignity, and but that's what I found that you have to have different skills for different roles at different times.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And that is so good because in that, this book that I read last winter, Principles by Ray Dalio. And
Mm,
in that book, and it said that it talked about whenever it comes to the human condition, because he's really interested in psychology, even though he went to the Harvard Business
mhm,
School. And it's just like, even in the sense when it comes to leadership, the greatest amount of growth of an individual, of a leader
mhm.
and a follower, or somebody that you're working with, because
Yes.
is conflict. is that conflict
Yes.
resolution. It's that idea of having those tough conversations,
Hmm.
having those ability to truly articulate things that we may not disagree. Like, okay, no one's going to agree on everything. That's a fact.
Exactly.
Especially
Exactly.
we're living in a time where everything is so polarized, where we like he's like my way is the right way. That's the reason why, in my opinion, I think that's why there's the reason why there's still this kind of this stagnation that is happening like
Hmm.
now with like my generation and what's going to come. And honestly, it's kind of it's a little bit concerning because if we're
Yes.
unable to really have those tough conversations in a way that is not attacking or that is not quick, and this is the reason why I even wanted to start this, because I like there needs to be a long form conversation because there's not enough of
Yeah.
that today,
Yes.
or our
Yes.
attention span has gone so short to the point where it's like, what the heck? No.
Yeah.
And when we fight, it's like, F you, forget you, I'm out.
Right. We stop listening. We stop caring. We don't want to hear anything that you have to say about what I think, if it's not the same as what you think. And if we've really, yeah, we've just really dehumanized a lot of our conversations. At the other time, or the other on the other hand, really, at the same time, we're also afraid to offend, and it's kind of like, oh, I can't say that because I don't want to offend them. And it's
Mm,
like, when you care about someone and you love them hard, you want them to be the best person. And so if you're afraid of offending somebody, you will never push or challenge that person that you're mentoring or that you care about, um, to be their best. You, I tell people you don't learn until you're in dissonance. You have to really have
mm,
some dissonance about, wait a minute, I've always believed this, and now you're telling me that. I have to think about that. And that's what you want, to be critically analyzing what you're learning. But when you say, no, I've always believed that these people do that, or, these stereotypes. And when you face something that's totally different, wow, I met this person, they're not that way. Um, what do I do with that? And
right,
you have to create dissonance. You have to create that discomfort for people to say, maybe I'm not on the right track. And that's okay. But we get sometimes so um, fearful of offending versus challenging. And there's a difference. When if I'm fearful of offending, I'm thinking, well, I don't want to say that because they might hurt their feelings. Then I don't
mm,
care about that person as much. But if I say I need to say this so that this person can think about it because that's going to make them better, I think, then then you have to push hard and say, I love you, I care about you, and I want you to hear this. You do with it what you want. And I always tell my students when I teach race and ethnicity classes, it's kind of like, okay, you've heard this. Now you cannot be ignorant. You can choose not to do it, but you can't be ignorant, right? You can't
right.
be. You've heard it, you've read it, you've studied it. Now you get to choose what you can do with it.
Absolutely. And I think this is a perfect segue into what my question was for you, since this is about, you work within equity and inclusion and, teaching race and ethnicity. Um, why do you think it's important for individuals to be able to have that perspective and like about that, like just that idea of understanding racial barriers, or like the idea of race and how
Mhm.
race is a concept, but
Yeah.
mostly for us to be able to have a perspective that is more globally minded.
Yes. In fact, I'm on a work team now at Baylor, and it's internationalizing the campus, and it's really
Mhm.
trying to change our culture to thinking outside of Baylor, Waco, Texas, the United States. And so, because our world is getting smaller, we have
Mhm.
to be able to say, okay, yeah, I'm a business major, but what am I going to do with this? Or I'm a teacher, or I'm a social worker. Um, we talk about worldwide leaders here at Baylor, and it's like, but you can't understand the world unless you understand the perspective, unless you can see past your own worldview. If you can be open minded, we need to be able to teach each other how to be able to listen and to have that open mind, and to see the world from the other people's eyes, right? Um, so going back to just why is it so important to be able to do this, we're going to be kind of what is obsolete if you're not able to get past our own worldview. You would
Right.
have to you'd have to be, you'd have to find a place, if you're able, that you're going to be homogeneous. You know, you're just not going to be able to. You're not going to be able to if you can't tolerate different. The world is different. The world is unique, and sometimes people say, "Well, we don't want to really capitalize on differences." Oh my gosh, God made us this way. I would be ecstatic if we were, the uniqueness. I love learning about the uniqueness of others. But the other part of that is that we have to care for each other as well. We have
Mm,
to be able to give and to serve, to love those others that are not as fortunate, and that's where we can come in again contribute to the welfare of all of us. Because
mhm,
I love that analogy when the boats in the harbor, when the tide rises, all of the boats rise, right?
right.
And so it's not just one or the other. So when you do for one group or area, a part of the world, you do for all of us. It just impacts us all.
Mm, that's really good. That's so good because you're saying that it impacts us all. And then you being a
Hmm.
person of color, Latin, like coming from the Latina community, um, what type of responsibility do you feel that you have in terms of like was like in terms of your leadership? Because being like I understand, you have to go, you have to look. I'm doing my best to continue to educate myself, and the majority of my life, whenever I look at leadership, or whenever I saw leadership, um, you just saw a lot of Caucasian males. It's
Hmm.
transitioning, but
Hmm.
but like again, it's and you don't want to label anybody, but like these are just factors. Like mostly a woman and women of color have the least percentage of representation of leadership. And so my question for you is like, what type of responsibility do you feel that you have, and why is it important to be able to have other like other people in
Yes.
leadership? What does that do to the mind?
Well, first of all, just to see the presence of a woman gives a lot of others, not just women, but men as well, to say, okay, I can see a leader. So that must be good, right? That must be something that's real. Because if I only see white males, then I'm thinking I could never be a leader because I'm not that person.
Mm,
That's the first thing. I think the second thing, though, the more that I've seen more female leadership is that ability to bring in a different perspective, and that would go with that's why leaders of color are so important because they bring in that perspective of, have you ever thought about this, or you may not want to do that. Those kind of things that think, okay, this is where I can bring in my experience and my um, just my knowledge and my culture, right? What I see with women is that we lead differently.
right,
I did a long time ago. I did a presentation on men are like waffles and women are like spaghetti. It's a book. Men are like waffles and women are spaghetti, and it's kind of like the males were like, okay, everything's compartmentalized, right? And it's so when you go to work or when you lead, everything is different. Home is in one little compartment, and work is here, and we're this, and it's just kind of the thought process is different. For
right,
females, it's kind of like spaghetti, um, because we kind of just run everything together. Okay, well, I'm going to work, but I'm going to go pick up, dinner, or I'm going to go to, pick up whatever, and then I'm going to do this. And so we just kind of run everything together like spaghetti. And so our way of thinking is we're very good connectors, very good. Uh, Collaborators were very good about just going every which way, right? And that was just a fun book that we talked about. But I say that because we bring different skill sets as different
mm,
people of color or of gender, of backgrounds. We just are able to bring in those perceptions and those perspectives and those even ideas that and we know that my first degree is business as well. We know that business is better when you
right.
have a diverse set of leaders. But when I think about females, I also think about the glass ceiling, and we talk about that, especially Latinas. With Latinas with a PhD is still at less than 1%, and that's crazy because the demographics are growing, opportunities are growing, and yet why are we still not producing more PhDs, especially in the
Mm,
female, right? Um, so I just think about it's almost it's the not permission. but it's how do I say this? I know that we had a study at UT Austin. Sorry, I'm going to put this.
Mhm.
We had a UT study, and a lot of women were going into STEM. They were going into um, different male-dominated careers. But
Right.
what the research found was that after they graduated, that they did not go into those fields. They did not go into those careers. They went into
Mm.
something totally different. And so the research was done as to say, why is it that these young women, especially of color, are going into these careers, undergraduate majors, but they're not pursuing that. And we found that they still had, we call it a lot of this imposter syndrome, where
Right.
they have the education, but they couldn't go into the career. They just didn't feel um, like they belonged. They didn't feel like they could contribute. They didn't feel that confidence. And that's a lot of what I push as far as females, because a lot of times, especially Latinas, we're taught to be we are taught to be humble. We're taught to be, we put everybody before us.
Right.
We want to make sure that everybody's happy. We want to make sure that our values is very much about self is last,
Right.
and we're not going to question authority. We're not going to question, especially male authority. And so when you have traditional cultures that are exactly opposite of what you need to be in a male dominated career, or in a leadership position where you have to be able to say no, you can't do that, and they may not be happy with you. And I think that was
Mm.
my biggest thing when I first got here, is that I just, I wanted people to like me, and so I thought, but if I have to keep changing for people to like me, then I lose me, right?
Wow. Wow. That's good.
so
Yeah.
so I figured it out. It's like people are going to be upset with me, and people are going to be better for this. So I have to, all every day I have to weigh out. Um, but that's why I'm so passionate about again, leadership, and helping our people of color, our students of color, realize that you don't lose and change, you modify.
Hmm.
You know, um, I may not make homemade tortillas for my husband, who would love those. I buy them, and but that's it. That's my lifestyle. I can't.
Right.
That's not a value of mine. When I went to grad school, I had to figure out, with 3 children and a husband, and I was commuting back and forth from Waco to Austin every day, um, full time,
That's commitment.
commuting.
Wow.
Yes, I say I say my PhD was as hard as my traffic, my commute. So, but yeah, I did it for 5 years. It was a 5-year program. So
Wow.
I say, wow, I did that. And it was tough. I wouldn't do it again, but I love the fact, this is something that I had to give up. I had to give up
Yeah.
not washing clothes, so my kids learn how to wash clothes. I had to give up cooking meals, and so my neighbors and my parents and my in-laws, everybody took turns, having my family over for dinners. So you adjust what you have to do to make
Right.
things work, right? And you give up some of those traditions, but you don't have to give up the values.
Wow, that's so there's so much value in that, and understanding that, in life things are going to change. In life, your situations, because
Yes.
sometimes,
Yes.
and it's okay to brand the traditional, like the idea, like again, because everything is changing. That tradition, that normative of, all right, me as a woman, I have to cook for the kids, or I have to do this, I have to do this,
Oh,
but
you
then
feel so
instead,
guilty.
but right, because I don't know, my mom is a psychologist, she all that, and she's like, I really wish that, because it is the innate nature of the woman to be like, I want to care for them, but then of course you're over here being a boss, doing what you got to do, serving your family, but also serving the students. Like, that is just so amazing to see how you taking that situation and how you flipped it, and how again it's still continuing to bring in community, which is really good. I really like that. That's amazing. All right, that's what Palacios, but I have this. Now, this is kind of like an off-kilter question, but of course, we're in the midst of COVID-19, and everybody's online and everything like that. Obviously, this
I'm
question.
having I'm having technical difficulty. Are you hearing any background?
Can you hear me?
Mm,
Can you hear me?
okay, I can hear you.
Yeah, yeah.
Good, good, because I was like, "Oh, I'm losing you." Okay, sorry.
Let's see. Let's check this mic real quick. Can you hear me now?
I can hear you.
Awesome. So
Okay, so if you'll repeat that, please.
yes, yes, absolutely. When it comes to COVID-19 really flipped education on its head,
Mm,
and
yes.
it revealed to a lot of people that hey, this is a business. It's a business. This is a business, and
Uh-huh.
like students are cash flow and anything like that. But um, that's besides the point. So, what do you feel? How do you respond when you hear? And I've said it myself that higher education is a scam. What feel
Mm,
and a scam in terms of when we talk about equity and creating a more equitable environment, but college is expensive. Um,
mhm.
Pursuing education in the United States is very expensive. So my question for you is somebody that's in leadership and somebody that is a staff that is doing this good work because um, now more and more you're hearing more people say that college is starting to become a little bit obsolete. Whoa, what is your take on that?
You know, it's a means and not an end.
Mm,
Um, and so it depends on what your goal is and what your needs are. For me, as a higher ed administrator, I guess in a four-year institution, specifically even a private and Christian, it's the experience, it's the community, it's just the experience because you can get the coursework, right? You can get the coursework. I'm also on the board of trustees for our community college here in Waco as well. And so what my mindset is also how do we take care of our students that just need the coursework? They're already married, they're already in their life journey, they just need the credentials, they need the knowledge. And then you have TSTC, another technical college where folks just need the skills and let's go. So it's really a means of what you really want. Um, I say with a four-year institution, it's the opportunity just to be part of a community and learn about people you'll never come in contact with otherwise. As far as you're going to meet people from all over the world. In a Christian a private institution, you're coming because you want that Christian influence and environment, that the professors who can actually pray before class.
mhm,
You want the freedom. I remember going when I was going to UT, and the difference of the public private institution, and even how they talked about life in classes was very different. So you go for the experience, you go for that growth in that environment, for the knowledge and the networking. And I mean, it's that's what you choose a school that's going to help you advance to who you are and where
right,
you want to be. Right. I always tell students though, if you need an environment that is going to help you and support you and even more people that look like you. You choose a university or an institution. I love Baylor, and I always sell Baylor, but it's not for it. If you, I guess, how do I want to say this? If that climate and environment is important for you to be successful, you need to find an institution that you feel that you truly belong and that you can resonate with, right?
mm,
Then you choose an institution that's going to provide the coursework and the majors that you want. And then you choose an institution that you can afford without, having to put your house up for sale. Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
And that you're not going to come out with a lot of debt. That's one thing that we don't want. So you don't go to an institution for the name. And a lot of people do. They say, oh, well, I'm going to go. I had one student tell me, I looked up institutions and Baylor was on the top, of I looked up Christian institutions and because we start with a B, Baylor was up there and I thought that's not how you do it. There are other students that have told me that they chose Baylor because, uh, they visited the campus and they loved the campus. It was so green.
right.
So, I love all this. This is great, but you choose an institution that it's going to advance you in what your calling is and what you're supposed to be doing. I know there's a lot of pushback and saying, well, it's just not worth it or it's not worth the money, but you can't buy this experience. You can't buy the networking. You can't buy the growth that you do. And this is probably the number one. reason I would say is it's basically who are you and who do you want to become? Because it's almost like and I'm a terrible gardener, but it's like putting a flower,
Hmm.
and what kind of soil does it need? What kind of nourishing does it need? And so, if you're growing and you're wanting to be the best version of yourself, in other words, what are those things that will be resonating to you? Some students will say, I really want to go to a historically black college. I really want to go to a Hispanic serving institution. I want to be around people like me. Others will say, I want to go to a Christian institution that does a lot of mission work. So you look at schools that say this school is doing what I really want to do better or to be
Right.
better. So I guess if you're talking about it business wise, there's got to be better models out there
Mm,
than to be on the backs of tuition of our students. I think that yes, um, for institutions that are able to give a lot of scholarships to our students, I think everybody should have access. They should have a choice,
right.
and
Right.
so I'm not really pulling the party line. I can see the difference of my students that come and go. I
Right.
can see the difference in me. Who, if I had, I always think about that. If I had said, okay, I'll be a cosmetologist, which is nothing wrong with that, but I don't do hair. That's just not my thing, as you can tell. Uh, but had I taken that word, where would I be now? Would
Right.
I be, I don't know, what would I be doing if I had said, that's all I can do is become this, and oh, she had me having 8 kids. I did. So, so what would I be and where would I be had I listened to the same first person who said I can never be? I sat next to a dean of School of Education who told me we were at a luncheon, and I said, "You know what I really want to do? I want to be a professor." And he turned to me in School of Education, and he turned to me and said, "You will never teach in the School of Education because you're not a teacher. You're not going to be a teacher." I said, "No, well, there's other degrees in School of Ed." Well, no, but you will never be teaching in the School of Ed. Well, he's passed on many moons ago, but I taught in the School of Education for almost 15 years, and
Wow.
I thought, wow. And so when people say, you will never do this, I thought, well, I don't know. Let me see now. And so these are the kind of things that if people listen to that, and I come back to the experience of school and the experience of college, the experience of higher ed, we need to get a better model. Our model is antiquated. Um, we need to get a different way that we can have these experiences without being so expensive.
Right.
So I agree with that piece, but I could never, um, I could never trade what I've learned and become.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
that's amazing. Ah man, that is so thank you. Thank you for that honest answer. Like, somebody that is in education say, yeah, the model needs to change. Because
yeah.
most people be like, oh, what? No. Just
No.
pull your bootstraps and you can work hard. I mean, and of course there's absolutely like so much value in that. Um but man, like that's good. That is so good. So, it's towards the end of the podcast, and I don't want
Yeah,
to go over too much of your time. But these are kind of like the questions that were like not don't want to say quick fire questions, but the questions that really do make the guests think about since it's the end. Um, my first question is, what is something that you like to see change in the United States? I know that's big.
I'm always big on process, but I don't like the process of our political system. I think that's one thing I wish we can get leaders that don't have to sell their souls before they get to the presidency, um,
Mm,
to be able to bring with them what they really can bring without having to. I feel like politics has become now uh, not healthy for and I'm not a cynic and I vote every time, but it's kind of like I just wish you didn't have to give up so much by the time you get to presidencies or the president's role. So I wish we had that clear access, a better pathway of leadership that could make a difference without having to be so political. So that's one. Um, the educational system. So I think again we really need to rethink how we treat our our teachers and how we educate our students, and so that education is not based on where you live or what you look like and what kind of education you get, which is still if you look at the scores from different states and different populations, there's still disparity about how well you're taught
Mhm.
in math and science, especially. And I think the last part would really be just that we were founded on our Christian faith, and I would love to see us be able to do that freely and to I feel very comfortable here because I can, but when I go other places, to be a Christian almost is I don't know. Um, Almost a fault, and I hate to see that, and I hate to hear that because, um, I mean, that's just truly who I am. So those would be the 3 things that I just wish, um, would have more freedom for our families to flourish and
Mhm.
not be kept down by systems or, processes or greed. Yeah.
That's good.
Not very deep, just very simple.
It's very simple. Very no, but that's good. That's thank you. Thank you for sharing that. I think that you did point on definitely the political system that needs to change. Um, I'm no politician. But I mean, I do my best to read all sides from the radical conspiracy theories to, more practical everything. So, and of course, there's definitely some leeway and some, a little bit of manipulation that goes here and there. But I really think that it will change in time. I think my generation and the generation after will change that.
I
Like,
look forward to that.
I'm very hopeful. Maybe that's just the optimist in me.
Don't
Uh,
lose it.
no, no, nah. And also, I guess for me personally, it's also the reason why, like, it's super important to vote.
Yes.
I guess I think it's now. This would be more classified as libertarianism in a way. If you would put a classification, it's
Mhm.
in an understanding that I'm going to make sure that I'm in the best position. I'm placing my family in the best position any way that I can. But also the reason why I vote is because some people are not able to have the access to the resources that I have. So it's my obligation, it's my
Mhm.
responsibility to hopefully put leadership into place or help vote the leadership into place to be able to help those people who are not in the same
Mhm.
position that I am in.
Mhm.
I think that's what basically what founded the country. But
Yep.
things changed. Things change. Things change.
They
Um,
do. They do.
Michael, next question for you is what are 3 things that you would like to tell to your 21-year-old self?
Mm. I would say first is not everything is a crisis or a catastrophe. Life will be fine. If something doesn't work out, life will be fine. To take just, like the old adage, stay calm. It's one of those things where it's not the end of the world. They're bigger things that so I think when I was going through any type of disappointment or frustration, it's like things are actually going to be better. Things are going to be fine. I think the second thing is live life to its fullest. I spent probably my first 10 years as a professional trying to, again, please everybody and figure out, um, who am I and am I right? And really second guess myself. And I wish I could tell my 21-year-old self, it's be who you are and bring that with you. Bring everything that's with you and not to be embarrassed of my uniqueness or my differences or uh yeah, because sometimes people look at me like, what do you mean? Or what are you thinking? That's okay. It's okay to puzzle people. uh, so I wish I would have told them, just be confident and just know yourself and bring yourself with you. Don't worry about what people are going to think and feel about you. Um, and I think the third thing is just try to live life with no regrets. I think about the regrets I could have had when I was Baylor sent me to UT to get my degree to come back and teach and to come back into a tenure track position. But we changed provosts, we changed presidents, and we changed deans of school of ed. So no one was when I came back. That position was not there for me. And I
Mm,
thought, well, should I fight it and be a tenure, go into tenure track, or should I just, be a just teach and see if this is what I want to do? And I really prayed about it, and I really had to really make sure that whatever decision I made, I would not regret it. So I didn't go tenure track. But then had I done that, I probably would not have been where I am now, right? So,
right.
so that disappointment was really devastating because I really thought that was I'm supposed to be tenure track um, professor, but God had other plans. So I would say just to be ready with big disappointments in our plans means that God has something much better in His plans. And I wish I would have known that because it was just really devastating. Um, but now I think, okay, well, God had a lot better vision than I did. So
Yeah,
I would tell my 21-year-old self, just, you know, just trust in Him, even when it looks so bleak and it looks so hopeless. There is something around the corner you can't see.
that's
Yeah.
good. That's good. And then my last question is, what do you want your legacy to be?
Oh, I want my legacy to be just leaving behind, not leaving behind, but bringing along with me leaders that are going to take my place as dean, take my place, take the places in professorship, faculty, take the place in leadership in businesses, um, to see my students. My legacy will first be with my family first, just seeing my children and their children. But with my students professionally, my legacy would be to see my students of all backgrounds be successful and be the best they can be because maybe I said one word or two that helped them to get past something. And because of that, they're going to turn around and they're going to help somebody and they're going to be somebody else's legacy. Does that make sense? So it's just that I would love for students to be at higher heights, I guess, because I was able to help them at least with one step, right? Just that one piece of whatever advice or listening. So my legacy really would be like you, students that are going to do great things. Um, excuse me. I have students now that are, telling me that they're doctors, they're lawyers, they're keeping me up with how they're doing. They're professors at at other institutions. Um, they're all over, and it's just that's what I want to see. That I made a difference. Just like somebody made a difference in my life and told me I didn't have to be this, I could be that. So yeah.
Yeah, wow, that is so beautiful. Um, this is the last segment of the show. And because as believers, um, I look at James, chapter 3, no, James chapter 2. Life and death comes from the tongue. And so this is where my favorite segment, honestly, get to speak life over my guest because words are powerful. So
Mhm.
here we go. This is me giving you the flowers, as the young kids say, giving where credit is
Oh.
due. Dr. Palacios, wow. Wow, 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 wow. First and foremost, I just want to say, man, shout out to Reggie for letting me inviting me to the very first luncheon. And I was like, what the heck is going on? And then you listen to this crazy kid. But um who would have thought? I just want to say, Dr. Palacios, thank you so much for your leadership and for your love and
Mm,
for your care for all of us, for your staff, for the students, for the people that you walk with, for your journey, and for you sharing your story.
mm,
Um, you have done some amazing, remarkable things, and you have beat the odds. And I'm so excited. I'm so grateful that you are an example and you are a shining light and you are living your legacy well.
mm,
You are creating a trail of students who are being motivated and being moved because they felt heard by you. The
mm,
way that even in first entering Baylor, it was like, oh, there's still no race and ethnicity class or whatever, to you now teaching that, to you being able to spearhead a movement of, hey, this is what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about equity. We're going to talk about kindness.
Mm.
We're going to talk about leadership. We're going to talk about ways that we can continue to make this experience better for everybody. That in itself takes a selfless heart. And I saw like your news feature on LinkedIn, and I'm just so amazed, and I'm so blessed to be able to see like, man, I know this lady, and she's helped me so much. I've talked to her. She's loved on me. She has just given me so much power and advice, and your words and each and every moment and each and every time we have interacted has touched me so much. And I just
Mm.
want to let you know that thank you so much for inspiring me, for inspiring so many individuals around us, for inspiring Gabriella Fierro. Goodness
Yes.
gracious, man! Like, your footprint on this campus is one that is going to stand for a very long time, and I just want to let you know that I'm so grateful for all that you've done, and thank you so much for just who you are. I love you so much. Thank you so much for just
Oh,
all everything.
Tanaka.
Man, I'm so grateful for you, and so yeah, that is
You are a
amazing.
blessing.
There you go.
You're gonna make me cry.
I
You
tend
are
to
a
do that.
blessing. Oh, thank you so much, and thank you for your gift and of just joy and compassion. And I love that you are a trailblazer. I like that word, trailblazer, and you are that. And so I appreciate you so much.
Absolutely. Well, where can the people find you at if you want the people to find you at? Like your LinkedIn, I don't know. Like, where can
I'm
people
in
keep up with your work?
I'm in LinkedIn. I'm in you know email at Baylor, Liz underscore Palacios. But I am in LinkedIn. I do have all the different Facebook and others. So Liz Gonzalez Palacios. So yeah, if anybody ever wants to get in contact with me, I would love it. If there's anything I can do to help, that's my favorite part, is just reaching out to people. So yeah. And if in nothing else, they can go find you. You can find me.
Yeah, absolutely, y'all. Well, hope everybody enjoys the show, enjoys this episode, and you were able to soak up so much value. And
Thank
that
you.
is it. And we are